The rain hammered the tin roof of the old Hawthorne family cabin like it was trying to drown out the words Aaron had just let loose. I'm gay, Aunt B. Have been since I could name the ache in my chest. His voice cracked against the storm outside Willow Ridge, Oregon, where the evergreens bowed under the weight of November gray, and inside, the fire sputtered like his resolve. Bee froze mid-stir of the chili pot, her silver-streaked bun unraveling like the family secrets she'd always guarded, or so Aaron thought. Her eyes, sharp as the coastal cliffs, locked on his, and for a split second, the room held its breath. Then she set down the spoon, crossed the creaky floorboards, and pulled him into a hug that smelled of sage and regret, whispering, "Honey, the world's been waiting for you to say it out loud." But the world wasn't waiting. It exploded. Aaron Hawthorne had always been the quiet one in Willow Ridge, the kid who fixed neighbors' boats and dreamed in the salt spray of the Pacific without ever voicing the pull in his gut toward the boys who roughhoused on the docks. At 24, he'd built a life in Portland, 2 hours inland, sketching blueprints for sustainable homes in a cramped studio apartment that overlooked the Willamette River. The city hummed with possibility, food carts slinging pierogies and falafel, hipsters on fixies dodging tourists at Powell's Books. But Aaron kept his edges soft, his truths tucked away like the faded Polaroids of his parents pinned to his fridge. His mom had died when he was 12, taken by a sudden aneurysm during a hike in the Cascades, leaving him with Bee, her younger sister, who swooped in like a hawk from the family nest in Willow Ridge. Bee raised him with stories of their Irish-Scottish roots, pots of stew simmering on the stove, and a fierce independence that masked her own scars from a divorce that splintered her like driftwood. That rainy evening back home for Thanksgiving had been meant as a bridge, not a breach. Aaron arrived with a bottle of Pinot Noir from a Hood River vineyard, his heart pounding harder than the wipers on his beat-up Subaru. The cabin was the same, wool blankets draped over sagging couches, shelves groaning with BEA's dog-eared paperbacks, Steinbeck, Morrison, the kind that peeled back soles. Uncle Ray, BEA's second husband, a burly lobsterman with a laugh like gravel, clapped Aaron on the back and cracked open beers by the fire. Cousins milled about, their kids chasing shadows, but Aaron sought Bee in the kitchen, the words bubbling up like the storm outside. I'm gay, he'd said, the admission tasting like salt and freedom. BEA's embrace had felt like absolution, her murmur a balm. They talked late into the night, Aaron spilling fragments. The high school crush on Caleb Morse, the bartender who lingered too long at his table in a southeast dive bar, the way Portland's pride flags fluttered like invitations he never RSVP'd to. Bee listened, her journalist's notebook absent for once, and by dawn, as the rain eased to a drizzle, Aaron felt lighter, like the fog lifting off the bay. He drove back to the city the next day, the highway curving through fern-choked forests, radio humming indie folk from local stations. Portland welcomed him with its usual chaos, cyclists weaving through traffic on Burnside, the scent of fresh-roasted coffee from Stumptown wafting over the bridges. At work, in the glass-walled office of Greenbuild Architects, he sketched elevations for a net-zero condo in the Pearl District, his lines precise, but his mind adrift. That night, he met friends at a brewpub in Alberta Arts District. Sarah, the sharp-tongued graphic designer with tattoos snaking up her arms, and Theo, her partner, a barista who brewed dreams into lattes. Over IPAs and plates of truffle fries, Aaron let slip the weekend's confession, their cheers a soft thunder in his chest. It was Tuesday when the world cracked open. Aaron woke to his phone buzzing like a hornet's nest, notifications piling up from Instagram, texts from numbers he didn't know. Groggy, he fumbled for his glasses, wire-rimmed, perpetually sliding down his nose, and opened the top message from Sarah. Dude, you see this? Attached was a link to The Atlantic, the headline screaming in elegant sans serif, "Whispers from Willow Ridge, a young man's quiet revolution against small-town silence." His stomach plummeted. The byline, Beatrice Hawthorne. The piece unfolded like a betrayal wrapped in silk. BEA's prose, lyrical and unflinching, wove Aaron's story into a tapestry of American heartland hypocrisy, the rain-lashed cabin, his halting words by the fire, the ache of unspoken years. She quoted him verbatim, "I'm gay, have been since I could name the ache in my chest." But she'd embroidered it with flourishes, imagined vignettes of his boyhood gazes across the school gym, the ghost of his mother's compassion, urging him forward. It painted him as a symbol, a lantern in the fog of rural conservatism, his coming out a clarion call for the hidden hearts of the Pacific Northwest. Aaron's hands shook as he scrolled, the words blurring. Shares from influencers, retweets from activists, comments flooding in. This is every queer kid I know. Brave as hell. Finally, a voice from the sticks. But beneath the praise lurked the barbs. Staged for clicks? It's a hack. His inbox overflowed. Interview requests from NPR, emails from support groups, a DM from a guy in Seattle with a shirtless profile pic and a winky emoji. He called B, pacing his apartment as the Willamette churned gray below. What the hell, Aunt B? You published it? Without asking. Her voice crackled over the line, steady as the tide. Eli, sweetheart, I had to. Your story, it's not just yours anymore. It's medicine for folks out there, choking on the same silence. Medicine? He laughed, bitter as black coffee. You turned me into your op-ed. I'm not a symbol. I'm me. The line went quiet. Then she sighed, the sound of waves crashing in the background. I know I overstepped, but read the letters pouring in. One from a boy in Astoria, 16, says you gave him the guts to tell his dad. That's not betrayal, Eli. That's ripple. He hung up, slamming his phone on the counter, the screen cracking like his trust. Portland felt smaller that day, its inclusivity a fragile veneer. At the office, colleagues clapped him on the back. Saw your aunt's piece, man. Powerful stuff. But their eyes held that pitying gleam, the one that said, now we know you. Aaron buried himself in revisions, erasing lines on his CAD software until his eyes burned. Nights blurred into a haze of takeout faux from the card on his corner and binge watches of The Crown to drown the noise. But the story lingered, a specter in every mirror. He avoided Willow Ridge, ignored BEA's voicemails laced with apologies and excerpts from fan mail. Instead, he wandered the Saturday market under the Burnside Bridge, sketching faces in his notebook, the henna artist with kohl-rimmed eyes, the fiddler whose bow wept minor keys. It was there, amid the steam of tamales and the chatter of buskers, that he first noticed the mural. Vibrant slashes of color exploded across a warehouse wall. Queer icons reimagined as Northwest legends. Harvey Milk as a lumberjack, Marsha P. Johnson fishing salmon from the Columbia. The artist signed it J. Rivera, bold script like a signature on a love letter. Aaron traced the lines with his pencil, the energy pulling at something dormant in him. That evening, at a queer open mic in a Hawthorne Boulevard basement, dim lights strung like fireflies, air thick with patchouli and possibility, he spotted the artist. Julian Rivera, 26, Mexican-American from East LA transplanted to Portland via scholarship at PNCA, stood on stage with a canvas under his arm, his voice a low rumble over acoustic guitar. Dark curls framed a face all angles and warmth. High cheekbones dusted with stubble, brown eyes that caught the spotlight like embers. He sang of borders crossed and hearts unguarded, his fingers painting chords as deftly as they did strokes on canvas. Aaron nursed a gin and tonic in the shadows, the lyrics hooking into his raw edges. When Julian stepped down, sweat gleaming on his collarbone, their eyes met across the room, a spark, brief as a match strike. Aaron looked away, heart thudding, but Julian wove through the crowd, beer in hand. Your aunt's article, Julian said, sliding onto the stool beside him. Read it last week. Hit like a freight train. Aaron tensed, the bar's murmur fading. Yeah, not exactly how I pictured going viral. Julian's laugh was easy, like summer thunder. Viral's one word for it. Revolutionary's another. I'm Jules, by the way, the guy who just butchered that Dylan cover. Aaron, Eli, and it wasn't butchered. Felt honest. They talked until last call, words flowing like the river outside. Jules sharing tales of his abuela's tamales smuggled across the border in her prayers, the graffiti walls of his youth that taught him to claim space. Aaron found himself confessing fragments, the sting of BA's pen, the way Portland's rain mirrored his unraveling. Jules listened without the weight of expectation, his hand brushing Aaron's on the sticky bar top, a touch that lingered like promise. As they stepped into the drizzle, street lamps haloing the wet pavement, Jules turned. Coffee tomorrow? My studio's in the warehouse district. No pressure, just lines on paper, maybe some lines on skin if the mood strikes. Aaron's breath caught, the city's pulse syncing with his own. I'd like that. The first date unfolded in Jules's loft, a sunlit chaos of drop cloths and half-finished portraits, the air scented with turpentine and fresh espresso from a battered machine. Aaron arrived with sketchpads under his arm, nerves jangling like keys in his pocket. Jules greeted him in paint-splattered overalls, a grin splitting his face as he pulled out mugs and a tray of conchas from a taqueria down the block. They worked side by side at a scarred wooden table, pencils scratching in companionable silence broken by Jules's stories, of fleeing LA's gang shadows for Portland's gray embrace, of murals that healed the scars of his own coming out at 18, disowned by a father who preached machismo from a pulpit of empty promises. "Art's my rebellion," Jules said, wiping charcoal from his thumb. "What's yours, Eli?" Aaron paused, his drawing. A seaside cabin dissolving into waves, faltering. Used to think it was architecture, building things that last. Now, hell if I know. Maybe just surviving the spotlight threw me under. Jules's eyes softened, and he reached across, tracing the vein on Aaron's wrist with a calloused finger. "Spotlight's a bitch, but it shows the cracks where light gets in. Like your story, it's messy. Yeah, but it's real. That's why it sticks." The touch ignited something, and Aaron leaned in, their lips meeting tentative at first, then hungry, the taste of coffee and courage. They tumbled onto the futon amid scattered brushes, clothes shedding like old skins, bodies mapping each other in the afternoon glow. Jules's hands were sure, reverent, whispering Spanish endearments against Aaron's collarbone. "Me luz, my light," as if painting him anew. Afterward, tangled in sheets that smelled of linseed oil, Aaron traced the tattoos on Jules's ribs, a phoenix rising from barbed wire, feathers in the colors of the rainbow flag. "This," Jules murmured, "for the fires we walk through." Portland became their canvas those weeks, a montage of stolen moments. Mornings at Voodoo Donuts, powdered sugar dusting their kisses. Evenings hiking Forest Park, where the Douglas firs whispered secrets older than shame. Aaron opened up in layers. The boy who'd hidden crushes behind football stats. The man who'd ghosted dates after one too many sideways glances from strangers. Jules shared his own fractures. The abuela who sent care packages of abuelita cookies even after the family rift. The gallery rejections that fueled his fire. But the article's shadow loomed. Aaron's phone still buzzed with echoes, podcasts inviting him on, a high school acquaintance from Willow Ridge friending him on Facebook with a cryptic "proud of you, man." Be called weekly, her voicemails a mix of contrition and clippings, a teacher in Bend using the piece in her curriculum, a suicide prevention hotline crediting it for a saved life. "See, Eli? It's doing good." He'd delete them, the betrayal a thorn he couldn't extract. Yet Jules urged patience, his voice a steady anchor during late-night talks on the balcony overlooking the freight trains rumbling by. "Forgive her or don't, but don't let it eclipse this." And he'd pull Aaron close, their silhouettes merging against the city skyline, a quiet revolution in the curve of a neck. Christmas approached, Portland decking itself in lights strung across bridges, the air crisp with pine from street vendors hawking wreaths. Aaron invited Jules to Willow Ridge, a test of waters both literal and figurative. BEA's cooking, Ray's carving the turkey like it's a crime scene. "It'll be chaos, but ours." Jules agreed, packing his guitar and a bottle of mezcal from his cousin's distillery. The drive wound through mist-shrouded valleys, evergreens heavy with frost, the radio crooning Sufjan Stevens carols. Aaron's grip tightened on the wheel as the cabin came into view, smoke curling from the chimney like a beckoning finger. Bee burst through the door before they killed the engine, her arms laden with holly branches, eyes lighting on Jules with unabashed curiosity. "So you're the artist stirring my nephew's soul." She hugged him fierce, then turned to Aaron, her gaze pleading. "Missed you, kiddo." The holiday unfolded in fits of warmth and fracture. Ray regaled Jules with tales of rogue waves off Cannon Beach, the two bonding over craft beers by the fire. Cousins arrived with pies and pregnancies announced in gleeful toasts, the cabin alive with laughter that echoed off the rafters. But dinner's grace cracked the facade. Bee, wine loose, raised her glass to Aaron's courage, the spark that lit pages and hearts alike. Jules squeezed Aaron's knee under the table, but the words landed like lead. Later, as snow dusted the porch, Aaron confronted her outside, breath fogging the air. "You can't keep wielding my life like your byline, Bee. It's mine to tell, or not." She leaned on the railing, face etched with lines deeper than he remembered. "I was you once. 30 years ago, scribbling letters to a lover in San Francisco I never sent. Your mom knew, held me while I cried. When she died, I promised to live loud for us both. Publishing that, it was my way of screaming for all the quiet ones left behind." Aaron's throat tightened, the snow muffling the world. "But you stole my scream." Tears traced her cheeks, silver in the moonlight. "I did, and I'd undo it if I could. But the good it's done, Eli, it's a tide turning." Jules found him there, slipping an arm around his waist, and together they watched B retreat inside, the door clicking soft as regret. Back in Portland, the new year dawned with resolutions whispered in bed. Jules vowing a solo show on queer resilience. Aaron pitching a firm project for affordable housing in rural Oregon, bridges literal and otherwise. Their love deepened in the mundane. Grocery runs to new seasons where they debate avocados' ripeness. Lazy Sundays at the Hoyt Arboretum, hands clasped on trails carpeted in trillium. Yet conflict brewed, subtle as seismic rumbles under the Cascades. Jules's ex, Marco, a sculptor with a silver tongue and unresolved grudges, crashed a gallery opening in the White Stag building, his presence a chill wind through the crowd. Over cheap Merlot, Marco cornered Aaron. Jules always collects strays. That article made you his latest cause. The words festered, doubt creeping like ivy. Aaron pulled away, nights spent alone sketching what-ifs. Jules's pity project, his story is bait. When Jules sensed the drift, he confronted it head-on in their loft, canvases pushed aside. This isn't charity, Eli. It's me seeing you. The man who fixed my leaky sink last week, who laughs at my bad Spanglish. Marco's poison, don't drink it. They made up fierce. Body's a battlefield of need and reassurance, but the seed was planted. Meanwhile, BEA's article birthed unintended fruits. Invitations to speak at a queer youth center in Eugene, a collaboration with a Portland nonprofit on rural outreach. Aaron wavered, the pull of purpose warring with his pain. Spring unfurled in cherry blossoms along the esplanade, but summer storms gathered. Jules's show loomed, his largest yet, fractured light, featuring a triptych inspired by Aaron, a figure emerging from fog, lines of architecture bleeding into human form. The private viewing was intimate, friends and collectors milling amid projections of Willamette sunsets. Aaron arrived late, heart heavy from a call with B. Another life touched, a teen from Coos Bay who'd come out because of the Willow Ridge boy. Pride weekend amplified the tension, Portland streets a riot of rainbows and bass-thumping floats. Aaron marched with Jules's collective, the crowd's roar a cathartic wave, but midway, Marco appeared again, drunk and venomous, shoving a flyer into Aaron's hand. A satirical zine mocking Auntie's expose as exploitative drivel. See? Even the queers think it's bullshit. Jules pulled Marco away, fists clenched, but the damage bloomed. That night, in a waterfront bar pulsing with drag queens and disco remixes, Aaron snapped. Is this what we are? A response to my trauma porn. Jules's face crumpled, the hurt raw. No, we're the after, the part where we build, not break. But Aaron stormed out, the bridge lights blurring through tears, hailing a lift back to his empty apartment. Days stretched into silence, texts unread, the loft's echo mocking him. He threw himself into work, blueprints for a community center in Willow Ridge. Ironic, a homecoming he wasn't ready for. B drove up unannounced, her old Volvo rattling into Portland like a ghost ship. She found him at a coffee shop on Mississippi Avenue, sketchpad open to unfinished waves. I brought pie and a proposition. Over slices of Marionberry, she slid across a folder. Proposals for a memoir co-written, his voice leading. Your terms, Eli, or burn it. He stared at the papers, the weight lifting fractionally. Maybe, but first, I need to fix what's breaking. Reconciliation with Jules came not in grand gestures, but a rainy afternoon at the Oregon coast, where they'd first dreamed of forever. Aaron drove to Cannon Beach, the sand dollars crunching underfoot, Haystack Rock looming like a sentinel. Jules waited by the tide pools, sketchbook in hand, his expression a storm-tossed sea. I was scared, Aaron said, waves lapping their boots. Of being defined by that story. Of us being defined. Jules set down the book, pulling him close, salt spray mingling with tears. We're not defined. We're drawn, line by line, choice by choice. They kissed as the sun dipped, painting the horizon in fire, and drove back entwined in forgiveness. The climax crested in Willow Ridge that fall, leaves turning the forests to flame. BEA's cabin hosted a reading for the Youth Center project, locals and activists filling the yard with folding chairs and lanterns. Aaron spoke, his voice steady for the first time, sharing the betrayal, the bloom of unintended grace. My aunt published my story without asking. It shattered me, but it also stitched strangers into family. He stood after, her apology public and plain. I stole his words once. Never again. The crowd applauded, but the real rupture came later, in the kitchen's hush. Ray pulled Aaron aside, voice gruff. Your ma would have been proud of all this. As night fell, Jules and Aaron walked the bluff, stars pricking the velvet sky. What's next? Jules asked, hand in hand. Us, Aaron replied, and whatever lines we draw from here. In the years that followed, Aaron's designs dotted Oregon's map, homes that welcomed the wandering, centers that cradled the cast out. He and Jules married in a cliffside ceremony, vows exchanged to the crash of surf, BEA's Tosta Bridge rebuilt. Their life wove through Portland's pulse, a daughter adopted from foster care, her laughter echoing in the loft now strung with tiny canvases. BEA's memoir never materialized, but her columns shifted, amplifying voices, not commandeering them. And Aaron, once a whisper in the rain, became a chorus, his story a testament, that even in betrayal, compassion carves paths to freedom, identity not a solitary shore, but a shared horizon.